the more current Hebraic document, it cannot be trusted. However, this is generally the opposite of how accuracy in ancient texts is normally determined. Normally, the earlier or more ancient a document is, the more authoritative and reliable it is considered to be. Since the Septuagint was an official translation of the priestly Hebrew text, and since it is a far more ancient text than the Hebrew Masoretic, it would appear that in reality, it's the Hebrew Masoretic text which has been altered. Some scholars see the discrepancy between the Septuagint and the Hebrew Masoretic text as an indication that the Masoretic text may have been purposefully altered in order to undermine the renewed covenant. Many scholars agree that the Masoretic text was developed over the course of several hundred years, during the time that the Jews were being persecuted in Europe. The alleged purpose of the Masoretic text was to standardize the text, to correct any errors that may have crept in over centuries, and also to standardize the pronunciation of the Hebrew by either writing down or developing a written system of vowels. However, some scholars have also suggested that the Masoretes may have also had a secret purpose in mind, to alter the text so as to weaken the faith in Yeshua, and thereby strengthen rabbinical traditions. But how does all this impact the rabbinical tradition of hiding our Father's name? Scholars differ as to exactly when the practice originated and why, but some scholars believe that this practice began when the Jews went into exile in Babylon. The Babylonians considered that the name of their god Marduk was so holy that it was not to be spoken aloud, and they made fun of the Jews for using the name of their Creator in everyday greetings and blessings. The Jews then stopped speaking the Creator's name, so as to keep the Babylonians from taking it in vain. Rabbinical tradition is to use the term Adonai, meaning Master of Masters, instead of the Tetragrammaton during times of prayer, and to use the term Hashem, meaning the name, at all other times. According to rabbinic tradition, the divine name is only to be spoken aloud once a year by the high priest. In order to keep anyone else from speaking the divine name aloud, the divine name was then hidden from all but a select few, and this select few were to pass on the correct pronunciation from generation to generation. The Masoretes then put vowel points on the Tetragrammaton in the Masoretic text, telling the reader not to pronounce the name as it was written, but to pronounce Adonai instead. However, some scholars believe that since the rabbinical custom was to hide the true name, and since tradition holds that the true pronunciation was to be hidden from all but a select few, that the vowel points supplied with the Masoretic text were intended to disguise the true pronunciation. But if the Masoretes may have put the wrong vowel points on the Creator's name on purpose, in order to hide his name, or if the vowel points on the Tetragrammaton are only there to remind us to say Adonai, then how is our Creator's name properly pronounced? Because Hebrew pronunciation can change depending on the vowel and letter combinations, no one really knows for sure. However, there are several theories that have gained widespread acceptance. Based on this, many scholars accept the following hypothesis as to how we might pronounce the divine name. The first letter Yud sounds like Yi. The second letter He sounds like Ah. The third letter Vav sounds like U. And the final He sounds like E. This gives the pronunciation Yahweh or Yahweh. This name is often written in English as Yahweh, Others suggest Yahweh. Other variations exist, and we'll discuss one of those. It's a common mistake to try to apply the English rules of grammar to Hebrew. We need to remember that Hebrew grammar is not English grammar. It's different. Nonetheless, we can get an idea if we consider the English words omni and potent. Together, these two words are pronounced omnipotent, which sounds very different than when the two words are pronounced separately. One popular variation of the Tetragrammaton is to begin with the name of the tribe of Judah, which is Yehuda, or some say Yahuda. Subtract out the dalet, which gives a D sound, and one is left with Yahuwah, or Yahuwah. Whatever the correct pronunciation, we should remember not to place too much emphasis on how this name is spelled in English. There is no truly correct spelling in English, since English is a pagan tongue, and is neither Hebrew nor Aramaic. But rather, the main thing is for us to learn to read Hebrew, and then to progress from there. But we might also consider one other possibility, and that is that perhaps there is no one true correct pronunciation per se. Genesis chapter 2 and verse 7 tells us that Yahweh breathed into man the breath of life. Some suggest that Yahweh is our breath of life, and that the sound of his name is supposed to approximate the sound of human breathing. According to this theory, the Yod-He sounds perhaps like Yah, or an inhaling sound. The Vav-He sounds perhaps like Ue, or an exhaling sound. Yah-Hue. 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 We might emphasize that this is only a hypothesis, and that no one really knows how to pronounce the divine name. However, if this hypothesis is true, then perhaps any of the softer pronunciations, Yahweh, Yahweh, or Yahuwah, might be equally valid, since these all essentially approximate the sound of human breathing. The truth is that no one really knows how to pronounce the divine name, as the original pronunciation at the time of the burning bush was not recorded in writing. The exact pronunciation of his name is not known to us. It's been hidden from us. Could it be that Yahweh allowed the pronunciation of his name to be hidden from us, just precisely so that he can see how we would treat each other when such confusion exists? 1 John chapter 4 and verse 8 tells us that Yahweh is love. So if we have a deep, abiding relationship in him, then shouldn't our walk reflect this love? May Yahweh give all of us this patience and love for every brother and sister who is genuinely seeking to keep his Father's instructions by virtue of his or her faith in the Messiah. In the Messiah's name. Amen.